The purpose of this video is to look at the legendary actions of the bosses in Act 2. However, I will give some tips for bosses every now and again. So I am here in Wraithwin at the Toll House. I'm going to fight Gerringothe Thorm. And yes, I know the bosses can be taken out or avoided through conversation checks. That's not the point of this video, so I will be doing the fighting. For Gerringothe Thorm, I would suggest, very much suggest, you put all of your gold in camp. She has an attack which does more damage the more gold you have on you, so if you have no gold, it does very little damage. So I'm going to get into a fight, and at the appropriate time I will show you the legendary action.
What do you bring?
So like most bosses, she has legendary resistance, but her legendary action is called sublimation. So when she loses a piece of armor, which happens when you kill one of the visages here, one of the skulls, she can try and sublimate and turn an enemy into solid gold. This works a lot like Flesh to Stone. So I've placed Lae'zel next to Gerringothe Thorm, and if we were to, let's say, kill this visage, or do nothing, let's try that again on a different one. So Lae'zel just got turned to stone. Turned to gold. But it's because she failed a DC 18 Constitution saving throw. Now, like very few of the other bosses, she can use this legendary action as many times as skulls die in a turn. So if I were to get rid of another one, it happens again. But actually, that doesn't really matter that much, because Lae'zel's already turning to gold. She doesn't lose anything by having the sublimate action again. So I'd say once you've started killing skulls, continue doing it, because there's no downside to having this happen more than once if you're already turned to gold. In subsequent turns, Lae'zel will get another saving throw to resist this, and if she passes just a single saving throw in the next 4 turns, then she will be safe actually. She won't be turned into gold. So if you really want to help Lae'zel out here, we could cast Resistance, which is a concentration spell that will help her saving throws in the future. So Lae'zel here just succeeded on a saving throw. I gave her Resistance and Bless. The DC is 18. She got 26, and now she's free to walk around again. However, if we do destroy another one of those, and I'm not sure of the exact range of this legendary action. We can see even just from here, it's more than just melee range. It seems to be about what I would approximate to be about 10 to 15 feet. It's probably something like 3 to 5 meters. But anyway, once the skulls are destroyed, Gerringothe is very easy to finish off. Next will be Malus Thorm in the House of Healing. Again, he's got legendary resistance, he's undead, and his legendary action is called Wail of Loss. So once per round, so not like Gerringothe just now, Malus can use his legendary action after being attacked to make every assistant cast Wail of Loss, which can potentially confuse all of your party. So the trick here will be to attack Malus last. If he's got no assistance, they cannot cast Wail of Loss, and they're not particularly difficult to kill. 62 hit points each. We'll focus on them first. In fact, what we'll do, we'll start off with a lovely, because oh, look at this. Right, we'll start off with a lovely. Sorry, distressed patients. So we will not attack Malus. Right now it might be okay because the assistants are very far away, but let's try and get rid of the assistants first. Then we can deal with Malus afterwards. Now they are resistant to fire damage, so I could either use Sleet Storm, but I'm just going to use Chain Lightning to kill off the sisters. Speed things up, shall we? There goes one. There's another one here. Ooh, 1 hit point left. That's sad. Again, avoid Malus. With no sisters, he can revive them in subsequent rounds, actually. But if I do manage to hit him, he gets his legendary action, Wail of Loss, but there are no sisters to do their shriek, so nobody gets confused. And then you can just, well, wail away on him. So he can revive allies, he can revive his assistants. We can try and stop it. Didn't work out, that's okay. But she's nearly dead now from being in the fire. Anyway. Yeah, it's very easy just to focus on him once you got rid of the sisters. His legendary action's really not that scary. Next up is Thisobald Thorm. His legendary action. So when his brew changes, which happens when you hit him with different elements, it overflows, dealing 3d6 of the corresponding damage type. So if you hit him with cold, it would do 3d6 cold damage, and empowering his allies. So let's try and see that in action. Let's try and get some lightning out there. So there we are. We saw the outburst of electricity there. Again, the range is probably about 10 to 15, 3 to 5 meters. Would have done 3d6 damage. Now it says it empowered his allies. I don't know if we'll get to see that. It's not something I'm usually too worried about, to be honest. Again, to get rid of the fact it can empower his allies, what we can do is just kill allies first. So if I hit him with cold, there's the cold reflux. Oh, we didn't get the... I was already used his legendary action. Sorry, yes, just once per round. So he doesn't get to add out the extra damage there. Generally, you want to make his reflux rotten, makes him inebriated. So he's got overflowing brew back. And if we put in more lightning... doesn't matter too much because it's already rotten. Now he's used his legendary action. He cannot overflow again. Made his drink rotten. And after 3 drinks, he will become vulnerable to physical attacks, essentially. Before that, he is invulnerable. But now we just absolutely lay into him. Does also include thunder damage that he's vulnerable to. The ads have proved absolutely no problem whatsoever. Since he's vulnerable to this sort of damage, that should have been a kill really, but never mind. He's also vulnerable to radiant damage, so here's hoping. Ooh, not quite. So any attack will do. Down he goes. So essentially his legendary action isn't that bad. Will only really hurt people nearby. It can empower his allies, but they start far enough away that I'd say it's unlikely it's going to be much of a worry. After getting rid of Malus Thorm and helping the Fist in the Last Light Inn and House Inn, and when he's gone to the Shadowfell, we're trying to lift the curse on the Shadow Curse lands, you will fight Oliver to help save Thaniel. It's the shadowed spirit of the land. It's a vengeful playmate. Once per round, when one of Oliver's summoned shadows is destroyed, he can immediately envelop the nearby area in the Wasting Quiet. So any creatures within this area are silenced and take 3d8 necrotic damage every time they enter or start their turn inside. So we're going to try and take out some of his playmates. One there and one there. So there's the Wasting Quiet. That was around where the playmate was killed. And so now I want to get Lae'zel out of here. There we are. So essentially when this area comes up, walk out of it as best you can. And like before, if you hit the Night Dome, this is actually an accident. Hit the Night Dome, it's not resistant to radiant damage. You'll take damage done in twofold. It's the same as Radiant Retort pretty much, except it's not just radiant damage it works for, it's all damage done. In future turns, he will summon more friends. Usually much weaker, yeah. Now keep in mind, his legendary action can only happen once per round. So the first one that you attack is where the area will pop up. We've still got the old one there. So you really want to get rid of as many of these in one turn as possible. Which is pretty normal anyway, because it helps get rid of the shield around him. Anyway, so you go around each turn, killing his friends. I'm going to try and get Gale to knock back this friend. Didn't work. So now the Wasting Quiet is nearby here. If you get the chance to kill an enemy inside an area that's already been used, it's probably best just avoid it. Thunderwave does work if you do manage to knock them back. Any way that you could repel them, like, I don't know, Repelling Blast would work also. So once the shield is down, you can get through this conversation and basically you've won. Next boss I'm going over is Balthazar. And I would suggest it's probably easier to kill him here There are far fewer bones for him to summon up allies. Something I've never tried before, but I've just decided to try for this video, is actually casting Arcane Lock on this door, because he does often like to run outside here, and there are a few skeletons on the other side of the door here. We should keep them out of the fight. So as with some others, he's got legendary resistance, and this time his legendary action that's listed here, he can cast Spectral Aspect, which makes him resistant to pretty much elemental damage, but immune to cold and necrotic. Creatures that strike him become bone chilled, which means they can't be healed. He also cannot be frightened, paralyzed, petrified, restrained, or made prone, and can also fly. That all sounds pretty scary. It makes him resistant to most damage, not all, but most. Force wasn't listed there, and radiant damage wasn't listed there. But his downside is he's got very few hit points, 118, and his armor class is very low. So if we can end up just focusing down on him, we're not going to have very many problems. And I'm just going to get Lae'zel to start this so we can see 80% chance to hit. It's not that bad at all. I'm just going to start with a normal hit. No special abilities. Oh. So, I'm going to try this. So there's a Spectral Aspect that just came out. And now he's resistant to many more types of damage and immune to more types of damage. It doesn't say he can't be stunned. So I'm going to at least attempt to stun him. He's saved, that's fine. And I'm dealing, he's 20 hit points down. And also just noticed psychic damage wasn't listed there. And I'm doing some psychic damage, which is nice. Let's turn that on, shall we? And so now I've used up all of his legendary resistances with a single character in the first turn. And I'd say while you can, focus down on him. The damage here is pretty much going to be halved. But like I said, his actual number of hit points is really, really low. His kind of weakness is the fact that you can just focus on him with your martial characters, physical characters, and he doesn't stand much of a chance. And then it's just a matter of clearing up the rest of them, which is the only thing to really note is you probably want to make Flesh take some fire damage, because then he receives disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks for that turn. But yeah, main idea here, focus on Balthazar with your characters that do good single target damage, and you'll be fine. Next up is Yurgir, and if you're going to fight him, I would suggest starting up to the side rather than down below. So his legendary action, once per round, because it's a legendary action pretty much, Yurgir can spend a legendary action to blinding ambush a hunted creature. So he can choose a creature to hunt every turn. And then if he's attacked, he gets to cast this skill here against the hunted creature. 5d10 radiant damage is quite high, really. And then you can blind them potentially as well. It's actually pretty scary for the creature that is hunted. So I'm going to start the fight off by casting a spell. He cannot be surprised. So he's highlighted Lae'zel to be hunted. He throws out these bombs. And then, yeah, often does that. It's not very nice. So let's at least help her out. So it's a good idea to throw these bombs back towards where they came from. There he is. And if I attack him... yeah, why not? He won't use his legendary action because it's not Lae'zel who is attacking him. So in this case, once he's hunted a creature, get other characters to attack him. And my Swordsbard here, saving the day every time. Now he's put all of these bombs out, which seems like a bit of a mistake to me. Let's try and set as many off as we can. That'll be his own downfall. I will show you that again where he does use the legendary action. But once again, Lae'zel's been hunted. And if she comes and attacks Yurgir, he gets to attack back for a fair bit of damage. Right, it was 5d10, so it took 30 radiant damage. Now the legendary action says possibly blind the target. There's no indication as to what that possibility is. Lae'zel did not make any sort of saving throw. This concentration saving throw is just because she's concentrating on Hunter's Mark. And she's not blinded, so I don't know if that's bugs and not working currently, or if there's a saving throw that wasn't shown to us. Here we are, fighting Ketheric atop Moonrise Towers. His legendary action is called Horde Strike. So he can Horde Strike a foe when it is attacked by a minion under deadly orders. So Ketheric can use an ability called Deadly Orders where he tells all of his undead allies to attack a specific enemy. It says it's more likely to target this enemy. I think basically if it can, it will. Generally, with this fight, I would get rid of the allies first and then go for Ketheric afterwards, because the allies do keep fighting even after Ketheric's dead. So for example, we got Necromites, the skeletons, vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, so Ice Storm. It's a pretty good start over here. Also, as part of his, this isn't actually to do with honor mode, but if a character dies within 40 feet of him, skeletal involucra, is that how you say it? Have you say it? Will rise. That's what these things are. I'll deal with them later. Down go those 4. Then we're left just 2 enemies on the battlefield. Get characters who do single target damage to get rid of them. So, as it turns out, Ketheric Thorm doesn't ever cast Deadly Orders on top of Moonrise Towers. So I'm just going to go and skip to Ketheric Thorm beneath Moonrise Towers. One way you can start this fight. Go invisible, and you can free Dame Aelin without... or before you get into battle.
There you are. You could have run away. Abscond.
Oh, I've messed this up. Right. All you need to do is just click on her, help her, use as an action. There we are. Now, I would suggest getting rid of the Mind Flayer first. It can stun you, cause all sorts of problems. Thank you, Lazel. Job well done. I will also leave some characters out front to try and be targeted by the Necromites, because Ketheric this time will use his Deadly Orders. So we should see his legendary action, well, in action. Alright, who's he going to put it on? Shadowheart. So now the Necromites will attack Shadowheart rather than anyone else. These guys should now attack Shadowheart, and here it comes, Horde Strike. Look at that. I wonder if I can make this into the thumbnail. I will let it through. So here was Horde Strike. She succeeded on her saving throw, so she didn't receive Bane as a condition, but still took some of the damage. 8 force damage. It's been halved. Not that bad, really. I guess you could take out the allies, so there would be no possibility of Horde Strike coming in. Anyway, I'll complete this phase and show you the next phase, where there is also a legendary action. So now we have the Apostle of Myrkul, who has legendary resistance, this time Gaze of the Dead. On the first creature that strikes at each round, they will receive 4d8 plus 5 necrotic damage and potentially become frightened. We'll try it with the Fire Elemental. Here it goes. Gaze of the Dead. They had a Constitution saving throw, DC 19, relatively high as things go. At this point, assuming you've got rid of the Mind Flayer, what you really need to worry about now is the Apostle of Myrkul. You can keep someone back to get rid of these potential spawns. It's easier to shoot them now rather than later. Again, try and use up the legendary resistances as quickly as possible. But the legendary resistance is but is for frightened, paralyzed, stunned, restrained, polymorph, charmed, and dominated. Not against damage. You can make him wet, so then you can use spells such as Ice Storm. He does a large AoE attack every turn, and also there is Bone Chill aura around here, so you can't be healed while standing next to him. He's only immune to poison damage, so necrotic damage is fine. And here, he's got no chance. But pretty much, once a turn, it's going to do a bit of extra damage and frighten someone, but you can get your revenge. So I do believe that's the end of the Act 2 bosses and their legendary actions. Let me know what bosses you found most difficult. If you've got any tips for any of the bosses that I missed out. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all the members of my channel, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.